Welcome to a brand new episode of Girl, Geek, and Gay, the show that teaches you math, but only when that math you're doing is divisible by 9.
But you're welcome.
I am Jose, and with me is the beautiful Jaime
Hi.
and the lovely Stephanie.
Hello.
So, there's this story that I've always wanted to talk about, right?
Okay.
But I've never had the chance because nobody's played the fucking game.
Oh, okay. But now we get to see it.
So, I left the game at Jaime's for a week. And he gave it back like, you know what? I'm not going to do this.
I wasn't just gonna. There was a lot going on at the time, and so I wasn't able to play the game. Yes, you're right.
What about Spider-Man?
There's a lot going on, and I haven't been able to play Spider-Man or God of War. But Dead by Daylight, I can give you lots of lore.
Yeah, well, HBO has finally gone ahead and adapted the story.
Yes.
So we get to watch it.
What story? What's the name of it?
I'm getting to
Oh,
it.
damn.
So we finally get to watch it. I finally get to have someone that I could talk to about it, and I'm so excited. And then Adolfo gets sick, and we have to postpone a whole other week.
Shit.
So it just kept me waiting.
Yes.
But the story, of course, I'm talking about is The Last of Us.
Yes.
So I want to hear what you guys think about it.
Well, in general about the show, it's I've loved the show. I mean, since episode 1, I love the show, and we are now at episode 5 as of yesterday or 2 days ago, excuse me. And it's continued to get better and better and better every time for me. I mean, I'll say episode 4 wasn't my favorite, but so far the show has been really, really great in general. What do you think, Stephanie?
Well, from you just talking about it, I already knew I was gonna like it. So when I watched it, I want to keep watching it. I'm like,
Yes.
why do I have to wait every week for
Yeah.
it? Just let me watch everything now. So I actually really enjoyed episode 4.
Yeah. Oh, did you? Cool. We'll talk about that then.
Yeah. But no, I've enjoyed the storyline so far. I was shocked by most of it because I was
Yeah.
just like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
When we got to episode 2, I got to watch episode 2 with Jaime and Adolfo, and the scene with the clicker.
Yes.
Jaime stopped breathing.
I stopped breathing. I did.
I know, because when that scene was over, I just heard.
yes. It was very reminiscent of Jurassic Park. You know that raptor scene with
Right.
Jurassic Park. Oh my god! Like I was like holding my breath the whole time.
He didn't want the clicker to hear him breathe.
Yeah, I did not want to get caught. I did not, and it was. But see, that just goes to show how great the show was. That I felt immersed in this world. You know, at the
Right.
time too. I was so into it. But yeah, it was such a great scene.
Yeah, so we start with episode 1, of course,
Yeah.
and we meet Sarah.
When You're Lost in the Darkness is the name of episode 1. Just
That's what I got here.
yes.
So we meet Sarah in this episode.
Sarah.
Is the daughter.
Okay.
And I like the way that this episode takes place from her point of view, because so in the game.
Spoilers, by the way, guys. Just before we get heavily into it, this
Yes.
is going to be very spoiler heavy.
Yes.
So in the game, you know, it's probably like the first 20 minutes where that whole thing takes place, right? And it's of course very hard hitting in the game, and what I find what they did in the show great, because you follow her for so long, you get to know her character,
Yeah.
so it hurts more when you get to that pivotal scene.
Yes.
You know.
Right.
I really like the way they did it.
Yes.
And so much of it was pulled straight out of the game. Like there were so many scenes where it's like, that's exactly how it plays out.
Yeah. And I knew because I played that first, 20 minutes of the game, you said?
Yeah.
So I played,
Mostly, I think about.
Yeah, I played that part of the game. I mean, that's all I played of the game. Oh, no, I got a little bit past that, too. I was hanging out with Tess in the game, from what I remember. And so I already knew it was going to happen. I knew, unfortunately, you know, we lose that character, Sarah, I knew it was going to happen, so I was already kind of prepared for it in a sense. But I have to say that actress was really great. Like
Yeah.
she really delivered the character so well.
Nico Parker, I think.
Yeah. She delivered the character so well, and I feel that if we would have got her as Ellie, I I I would be probably a more of a fan of Ellie than I am so far just in the show. But just because she,
Yeah, because she's white.
I didn't say that.
didn't
What the heck? No,
We all know.
no. But the actress, she was great. Like that first, the Sarah's character actress was great. It was a great character. I love the way she delivered it. I like that. Like she's a teenager, right? She's being. Oh, but I guess it wouldn't have made. Well, but I mean, it would have made sense if they just flipped it later on. But I do like the way she delivered that character, and it made her be so much more likable in the show. And I feel like if she would have been Ellie, that it would have been amazing too. Just saying. Just saying.
What did you think of episode 1?
It freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah.
Because like earlier I was telling you guys that since I work for my apartment complex,
Yeah.
that since we had that heavy rain, this fungus has been growing.
Yeah.
And since The Last of Us has this incurable,
Yeah.
whatever, you can't cure this fungus.
Yeah.
Like once you get it, you're gone.
Right.
So I'm like, it kind of reminded me of that. So I was just like, oh great, now I'm gonna turn into a clicker, or I'm gonna turn into something like, oh.
Yeah.
But no, it was a really interesting
Premise?
yeah, I was just like, oh, okay, this is when they went into Indonesia and she was like, bomb. I was like,
Yeah.
bomb? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh man, that's intense. And I was just like, and you
Yeah.
could just feel her emotion. She's just
Yeah.
like,
She was great.
she's like, I just had a great lunch and you just ruined it for
Yeah.
me. I have to die today.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and that was Infected. That was the second episode
Yes.
too, right? It was so
that
like
was the second one?
that was the second one. It was like the introduction to the second one, yeah, because the first one really focused.
It's more on Sarah.
Yeah, it was more about around them, and then like what ended up happening, right? And then they jumped to the future.
And then they jumped 20 years into the future.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so then they jumped to the
gotcha.
future. But I mean, still though, like that
Yeah.
that scene and like you guys said, like the pain that she like the fear that she felt, you fucking felt it, and it was all throughout the episode, right? Because that's also where the clickers. That scene,
Yeah.
Sorry, the museum scene with the clickers. That's where that happened too. So that episode in general, just like all this pressure, all this stress, that like it just delivered. I was feeling the show so much. It was crazy.
Yeah. So episode 1 starts with the interview, right? The interview with the two doctors, scientists.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, on the TV.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I listened to a podcast a few years ago when they were talking about fungus and the fact that fungus can't survive in the human body because a fungus can start dying at a certain temperature.
Right.
So that there's no reason for a fungus to evolve past like to survive in hotter temperatures. But there is research showing that humans' bodily temperatures are going down. So from 98.6, they're getting just slightly lower and lower. And not only that, the planet is heating up.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives fungus a reason to evolve.
Right.
So this was probably, I think this would have been 2019 when I listened to this podcast.
Bitch.
But they talk about how it is a very real possibility that fungus can invade the human body at some
Right.
point.
And that's why, like I said, being around here, I'm like, oh my gosh, global warming is happening.
Oh,
this thing is
God.
gonna evolve, and I'm gonna encounter something, and I don't even know what I'm gonna do about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's what the scientists said. They're like, oh, if the planet gets a little warmer and it has to evolve to survive, then we're in trouble.
Great. We're over here worried about AI.
I'm gonna worry about everything.
Everything. I mean, realistically, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love the way they do the infected in this. So the longer you're infected, the more fungi like you appear.
Yes.
So we see just like little fungi growing on people.
Yeah.
That on the infected people.
Yeah.
It's very cool. They do it like that in the games as well. You can always tell how long someone's been infected for by what stage in the thing they're in.
Yeah.
There was one thing that they changed in the show, which is spores.
The transmission
So-
of it, right?
Yeah, so in the video game, there are certain dark areas that you have to go through. Of course, terrifying, but usually when you're in those dark, cold areas, your player is wearing a gas mask because everything is just surrounded by spores. So when one of these infected is dying, they crawl into a dark area and they basically become a plant.
Oh,
and
shit.
then like they just
Spores.
start releasing all these spores.
Yeah.
So just
Fungus.
breathing one of those,
Yeah.
you could get infected with
Right.
that. So they changed it in the game. What I had read previously was that they didn't want to have the actors in gas masks, and also because the spores will, like in real life, they'll remain on your clothes. If you step out, like,
Yeah.
and take the mask off, like these things are still on your clothes, they're still in your hair and everything.
Yeah.
So they just wanted to make it a little more realistic.
Yeah, the directors also said that. Like at the end of each episode, I stayed past the credits. It talks about some of those things, and that was one of the things that they mentioned is that they wanted it to be more realistic in the sense of like not everybody. Like, obviously, spores exist,
Yeah.
so it would be harder to dodge it if there's no limitation to the fungus.
Yeah. Later in the episode, we meet Tess, right? Tess, played by Anna Torv. I was upset that they didn't just cast the voice actors for the show, and Anna Wershing, I believe.
Okay,
She recently passed away,
Right.
which was really sad. I
Like
think
when?
she was like 44 years old.
okay.
She passed away a few weeks ago
Oh,
from
wow.
cancer.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, and great actress too. She was. Have you guys watched the show The Rookie?
No.
Good show, and she played a serial killer in the show, and she was great in it. Like she was just very Hannibal Lecter-ish. So I was upset that they didn't let her take over the role, but especially when they brought in the actress who plays Marlene, whose name I can't remember right now. She played both in the game and she plays her in the show. I know they have Troy Baker, who is the voice of Joel in the show, but he has not been introduced. Neither has, I can't remember her name, the voice of Ellie. I can't remember her name right now. But she is also in the show. She has not been introduced. Some of the other voices we've seen, though, is Tommy. He was introduced in episode 4. He is the mercenary.
Oh, the bearded guy.
Yeah,
right?
the bearded
yeah,
guy.
Yeah, the military guy. Uh huh.
Yeah. So he's in it, too.
Yeah.
Going back to episode 1, I feel like Tess was kind of toned down from what she is in the game, because I feel like she was more of a badass in the game. In the game, you see her. So, for instance, whenever they're interacting with somebody, everybody talks to her first, right?
Oh, okay.
Joel is just a muscle. Like everybody talks to Tess. Tess is in charge, and here we start the first time we see Tess. She's being held
Captain.
prisoner. Yeah. In the show, in the game, the first time we see her, she's walking into the apartment and she's got, of course, the messed up eye. And Joel asked her, like, what happened? And she tells him, like, oh, some guys jumped me, but I took care of it. Don't worry about it. Later on, you hear a conversation from two other characters that are like, yeah, 2 guys tried to take out Tess, and Tess just killed both of them.
Oh, wow.
Right? And it's like, well, the other Tess, the Tess we got is the one that gets captured and is a little more, I'm sorry, like, we won't do anything. We won't come after you. As opposed to this one that's like, oh, no, I killed those 2 guys, and now we're going to go kill this guy, too.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
They softened her up.
yeah, I feel like that.
I thought like the impression that I got from that scene was that it kind of reminded me of that scene in an Avengers movie. I can't remember which one, where Black Widow is being held captive, right? But she's like not really held captive. And that's what I
Age of
got.
Ultron.
Yeah, so that's the vibe that I got. I felt like she was like joking around, like, oh yeah, I'm just sure, just let me go, because you're gonna die eventually. And that the guy was freaking out.
Well, yeah, because he didn't want her to sick Joel on her.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. They did. Yeah, I get what you're saying though.
Yeah.
I mean, then again, I don't have the game as the example though, like the comparison of it.
Yeah, there have been things that have been changed in the game. Episode 5, like something happened that was a little different than what happened in the game, and they have changed a lot. Like the Bill and Frank story was completely changed.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you because I was really curious because you played the game. Like, what was the story in the game compared to? Episode
we
was long
could
time.
skip to episode 3.
Okay.
Episode 3 is the story of Bill and Frank, right?
Right.
And in the game, I feel like Bill's Town. I was a little disappointed to not see a little more of Bill's Town, because Bill's Town is just full of booby traps. That you just have to kind of navigate through.
Yeah.
Until you get caught in one.
Yeah.
In like a set piece. So now you as a player are hanging upside down, trying to shoot down infected while Ellie is trying to cut you down. Right. So you have to protect Ellie. You have to protect yourself. You have this little 6-shooter pistol that you have to keep reloading from all these infected until Bill shows up, saves you, pulls you out. And then there's a chase, right? You're being chased by all these infected trying to make it out. Bill's character in this is just very, very much the way he is in the show. He's angry. He's just he doesn't trust anybody. Like he doesn't trust Joel, even though he knows Joel. He really doesn't trust Ellie, and him and Ellie have some very funny interactions because Ellie just hates him.
Yeah,
and Ellie insults him every chance she gets. Right, and it is heavily implied that Bill is gay, but it's never addressed.
Got it.
Because you should know that people don't walk around just being like, "Hey, I'm gay."
Yeah,
that's not a thing.
What do you mean? I do that.
So throughout the game in notes, you find things. You find a note that refers to Frank as one of the smugglers, but you never see Frank until the mission that you play with Bill. You have to break into a school, and this school is surrounded by infected, right? And you're trying to get that battery. After they try to find it, the battery's not there. They escape, and then they find Frank's body. Like he hanged himself.
Wow.
Right. And so they cut him down, and Bill's like, "Oh, look, he's got bites here, 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 and here." And Joel finds a letter, and in the letter, like Frank is just like, "Hey, I made it to the battery. Like you never wanted to try because you said it was suicide. Apparently, you were right." But just so you know, like I hated your guts. Like I couldn't stand seeing you anymore. Like I was tired of this, and it's sad because like you give the note to like you get the option to give the note to Bill, and like you just like hear Bill like how broken up he sounds when he's just like, "Yeah, well, fuck you too, Frank." You know, so it's still a very, it's more of a video game story that than the one that we got.
Right.
Which was a lot more emotional.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I cried a lot. I did. I like the story, but I can also see how there was no kind of connection to Joel. Is that his name?
Yeah.
There was no connection really built up between him and Joel, right? Because there was just that one scene where it was like Tess and him, Tess and Joel, and then we said Frank and Bill, like all hanging out together. They became friends, and they implied a lot of friendship over 20 years. But it wasn't like a build up to really that friendship. It was more focused on Bill and Frank, which again, that was an interesting story. Like I love the emotion behind the story. I love the relationship building. I think Frank was kind of like a bitch, like I wasn't a huge fan of him. And it's not where I expected it to go.
It's because he's gay, huh?
I'm gay, bitch. What the fuck? What? Yeah. No, but it's like, so it was a good build up to the story. And again, one of the characters I feel like was a little bit more likable than the other. And that final window scene though, like to me, that final window scene, I was like, oh my God, like because it was just such a simple scene, right? Such a simple, like them driving off.
Right.
But you just know what's behind, on the inside of the window,
right.
Like, what's on the inside of the window, the emotion, everything. That whole episode build up was great. It just, the tie-in to Joel and to Ellie would have been a little bit more interesting. Like you said, you got a bit more of that in the story. So that's cool to hear. That they at least connected it a little bit more.
Yeah.
We didn't really talk about Ellie. Like, she is pretty. I mean, I kind of mentioned that she was lame.
You want to pause?
Yeah. Episodes are all blending in together.
They are.
Yeah, okay, so episode 1 was, of course, it starts off with the Sarah story. We jump 20 years in the future. We see Tess and Joel and their relationship.
Yeah.
And then Ellie is introduced in episode 1.
Okay.
She attacks Joel when they go to Roberts to get the battery. Remember, with the fireflies, and we see Marlene being injured. Like, she was shot.
That wasn't 2?
No, that was episode 1.
This was a long episode then.
It was.
Oh,
it was
it was a longer one. Yeah, it was a longer one.
Oh, that's
Episode 1
right.
was an
That's
hour
right.
and a half long.
Okay.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So we have Ellie attack Joel, and Joel disarms her. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of when we see the first time that Joel is hard of hearing on his right. because if you've noticed, like every time he's attacked, like it comes from his right side.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
Ellie brings this up in episode 4.
Oh,
Yeah, she does.
When they're going to sleep, and she's like, "Are you sure you're gonna hear it? Because I've noticed you're hard of hearing on your right side."
did she?
Yes.
She did.
What
And-
Before they went to sleep.
And Joel even says like, try not to shoot so many guns or something like that.
But she's also the one that stopped him, like from. Well, we're jumping ahead. Like she's from putting all the glass on the ground too. At a certain point,
She didn't stop him.
she did.
No, she asked why
Yeah.
was he doing it,
Oh,
and he says for the noise.
Yeah, and that's when.
But did she say like you're kind of overdoing it too?
No, she said, "Are you sure you're gonna hear it?" Is
Yeah.
what she said.
Oh,
No,
I did not
that's
get
why
that
she
at all.
brought that up.
Oh, crazy.
So yeah, that's when Marlene asked them to take her. Episode 1 ends with them walking off into the city, and then like you get that shot of Boston like just falling apart,
That's right.
with the buildings like leaning up against each other, and you see a little clicker like in one of the roofs.
Yeah. So
You
okay,
see it in the roof?
Yeah, you see a clicker in the roof. It's,
need to
it's a
rewatch
little
this.
dark, but you could see it. Like you could see a clicker kind of like walking around on one of the rooftops.
Oh my gosh, I have to go watch it again.
yeah. So okay. So this is also what they show that Ellie's
bitten.
Ellie's bitten and she's just never transformed. So she's obviously special, and that's why they're trying to get her to the certain point. And they're also trying to find Joel's dad, brother. Brother. I don't know why I said dad. What the fuck? Looking at
Because
your
you were
face.
thinking
'Cause
Joel's
he's
daddy.
a dad.
Oh yeah, because that's right. That's why I blended it together.
And I was like, he's thinking Joel's daddy.
I'm just thinking daddy the whole time. Pedro Pascal. Daddy. No. Anyway.
So that's how episode 1 ends.
Episode 1, got
Episode
it.
2 starts with the doctor
Yes.
in Jakarta. And she's being asked about the fungus. And
Yes.
that's
Right.
when she says, kill everybody. that
Right.
lives.
They show a body of like one of them already infected and how like the thing was growing out of their mouth and stuff like that. Yeah, it was creepy.
Yeah, very,
Oh, yeah.
very creepy.
Yeah.
Then episode 2 is when we also learn that the fungus has that if you touch the roots on one side, like it warns everybody that's
It's
like a
all
hive
connected.
mind type thing.
Kind
Yeah.
of like in Stranger Things, where it's a hive mind.
Yeah.
So and then we get that museum scene where Tess is bitten.
Yes. Right. And this is where like I remember telling you, well, why is she not in the poster? Like I already kind of knew that she wasn't gonna be in the show based on just like the poster, because like I have this thing called spoiler vision, by the way. Just I found out that that's what it means. I spoil everything. FY. Ask Adolfo, poor guy. He just has to deal with it, and I blurted out. Anyway,
Oh, but you get so mad at me when I spoil something.
I know it's good when I do it, not when you do it.
So, yeah. So I think episode 2 ends
With her dying, right? Tess
with
dies.
Tess dying.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then like he makes a promise to Tess to get her because that's her last hope, right? Like
Right.
her last part of her humanity is like that she wants to know that she's sacrificing herself, but that this is gonna be what helps the human race
Right.
in the end. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying you don't like Ellie?
I don't like Ellie.
Why don't you like
Okay.
Ellie?
I don't like Ellie. I don't know. She's a little obnoxious, and I guess she's a
She's a
teenager. Yeah, I guess you can say I don't like kids. Like not nothing against kids or people who have kids, but I don't like kids. Like it's just I don't know, and I think maybe her face makes it worse. No, that's mean. I'm just joking around.
He's not kidding.
I'm not. I'm a he. What'd you say? Did you call me she?
No, I said he's not kidding.
Oh, okay. So I don't know. I don't like Ellie. But is that how she is in the video game?
She's actually playing the role pretty well.
Okay, cool.
But I don't find anything wrong with Ellie.
You know-
do you? But
No, just she has her moments where she's obnoxious.
Yeah.
which she's a child.
But I'm like, that's just a teenager
Yeah.
or kid,
Yeah.
I guess.
I get it.
So it's just like, why aren't you listening? He's saying something
Yeah.
for a reason. And
Yeah.
I think that's just me being as a parent. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I tell you something
Yeah.
for a reason. And
Yeah.
then, but that's just me because, like I said, since I'm a parent, I
Yeah.
understand why Joel is like, ah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we see this in episode 2, which is Ellie's first time outside of the city, right?
Yeah. Oh, she's
and-
in awe of everything.
Yeah, and when Joel, like, she has never heard of a clicker. So when they're like, "Hey, be quiet," and she's like, "Why? Why do you want me to be quiet?"
Right.
And like that, that's when they're like, "Oh, like these things, they can't see you." And yeah, like the clicker looked super cool.
Yeah, it does.
The clicker looked really cool,
Yeah.
and it was such a great scene.
I thought I was gonna jump out of my seat. Yeah. I was like, "What is that?"
And the cool thing is, because I've watched like how they made the game and like all the voice things and everything, and they were talking about how the sound that the clicker makes is a person,
Oh,
and like
wow.
it's not auto tuned or anything. Like that's just a person.
Wow.
That managed to do that with her voice, and I was like, oh, that's terrifying.
Wait, that was an actual person.
Yeah,
doing it?
that could do that with her voice. Like, no.
Yeah.
Because I mentioned, like, in the game, if you hear that clicking sound, you duck and, like,
Yeah.
I'm not moving.
I want to. Well, I don't want to spoil the show for myself, so I'll just wait to ask you questions after I'm done watching the show.
Yeah.
So episode 3, we moving on to episode 3 was the one we talked about with Bill and Frank.
You said you had thoughts on Bill and Frank?
So, I know it wasn't all about the zombie fungus people or whatever. What really got me with the emotions, and not just about Bill and Frank, right?
Right.
But with Ellie, I'm not sure if it was part of episode 2 where they're walking towards them, but when she sees the airplane, just everything for her where she's just experiencing all this stuff that I take for granted. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen airplanes in the air before, you know, and she's never seen that. She's never been in a car before.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And I was just like, oh my gosh. And then when it's to that garden scene where Bill and Frank are enjoying a strawberry. I'm like, I literally just had strawberries 2 days ago, and they're over here crying about a strawberry.
Yeah.
It just really like
Yeah.
hit me like, wow, that's crazy. Like that people miss out on a lot of things when you don't have it.
Yeah. Well, you don't, and yeah, exactly, right? Like all those things that, like you said, we might take for granted.
Yeah.
But then they're really appreciating it in that moment.
Right.
And I love this episode, by the way. Like episode 3, like episode 3 and episode 5 have been my favorites. And I love the story. I just loved everything about it. The way it was shot, the final scene, like I mentioned earlier. It was such a good episode, and I liked what they did with that, with the characters. It was a really, really great episode for sure.
I did like the part where Ellie was reading Bill's note, and then she does that weird laugh, like, because he wrote that, like, hey, 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 hey.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, 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 hey.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like Ellie.
Yeah.
I think she is very similar to the way she is in the game.
Yeah.
One thing that I do find interesting, so Neil Druckmann, the creator of the game and director of a lot of these episodes and writer as well, he told the actors not to play the game, right? And I found that very interesting because seeing how similar they are to their game counterparts, because Neil Druckmann says, we give them all the direction they need to know, but I want them to ultimately be giving us their portrayal of the characters.
That's great.
So every emotional moments that needs to hit, they are instructed on it, but they play the roles the way they play them. So it's very interesting to hear them sound the way they do in the games at times in certain scenes, but especially Ellie. Ellie sounds like she does in the game.
That's great.
A lot.
Yeah.
Like the way she delivers lines, it's very similar to. Oh, I can't remember her name. I'll look it up. Later.
You mean the voice actress?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll look it up, but
I can't remember her name, but it's been very interesting. And yeah, episode 3. Honestly, episode 3, the first time I was upset because they had changed so much of it from what we get, and I was looking forward to seeing Billstown.
So you hate gay people, is what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. So that's just gonna be taken out of context, isn't it?
They're gonna just clip that part.
So I went back and rewatched it and rewatched it with fresh eyes, you know? When it's like, okay, now I'm not getting what I expect. Like I'm getting a story.
And that's the hard part sometimes.
But that was honestly what I needed. Like I needed to go back and see it and be like, this is just a great story.
Yeah.
Right.
And it is what it was, you know?
Ashley Johnson.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting perspective, and it's cool to get your perspective of it because you've already experienced the story, the game, you know, a lot of stuff. So it's cool to hear like the differences, right? And that there are differences because you don't want to just get exactly the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
You know, like it's going to be like you're just playing the video game all over again, right? But you're right from the perspective of like what you saw in the video games and what we got to see. You know, we got to see just that story, right? And you got to see a bit more in detail, and then you know, not as much. So I can understand your point of view, though, for sure.
Yeah.
Of the changes and stuff like that.
Yeah, and now episode 4. Well, one thing that I am kind of a little dubious about is seeing how Joel already seems like he's more caring about Ellie.
Yeah, like it's too quick in your opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because like you don't see this till a little later in the game, you know, like he's very cold towards her, and here he's already showing a little more.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's been fast forwarded quite a bit though?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
So the don't want to get ahead of myself, but it does feel like he's already a little more caring towards her, and I'm like, it feels a little quick, you know, because he's definitely in the game. He's very cold towards her,
Yeah,
and like there's just very these moments where it's just like, oh damn, give her a hug, man. Like,
yeah. Oh, I got you. I got you. Go ahead.
For me, I've never played the game, obviously,
Yeah.
but to me, I think he's like just warming up that he has someone with him.
A person. Yeah.
And so I still get that he's still distant from her. And I think, again, I don't know, but I think later on he's gonna start being more like a fatherly figure because he's gonna start thinking of his daughter.
Yeah.
But I think that kind of got brought up in episode 5, kind
Yeah.
of like. But I think adding like the dad jokes or whatever with their little playfulness right there, I think that was pretty cool to show that, yeah, he's starting to accept that she is a person and not just the thing that got bitten.
Yeah. The cargo, as they were calling her. Episode 4, for me, the first time around, I really didn't get captivated by it, especially coming off of episode 3, because I felt episode 3 was so good that 4 was just kind of like meh. And I guess the reason I felt that way was with the introduction of, I don't know, I can't remember
Kathleen?
her name. Karen? No, I'm sorry, Kathleen. Yeah,
I don't like her.
I didn't like her. I didn't like that character.
No, yeah, she's very 2-dimensional for me. So I had that issue with episodes 4 and 5. Like she just seems like she's there just to be a bad guy.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's
for sure.
I know they're trying to expand on her character in episode 5, where it's like, oh, he killed her brother. Like she's like on this.
Did that happen in
thing.
episode 5?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So she's on this revenge thing, and I was like, she still just seems like she's evil for the sake of being evil.
That's what it feels like. Yeah, you're right. And so you automatically just hate her.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that's
nothing
it,
to do with the actress. Like she's doing what she can, but I do feel like it's faltering a little bit here because she doesn't seem like a well-rounded character. Like another thing is that Joel is not a good person, and I feel like they're kind of shying away from how shitty of a person he is in the show
compared to like the video games. What you're saying?
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
And even then, like
he implies it.
Yeah, there are little hints, and
Yeah.
you know, like with the ambush when she's like, "How did you know it wasn't an ambush?"
Yeah.
And he says, "Because I've been on both sides."
Right.
Right. And she says, "Oh, so you've killed a lot of innocent people." And
He doesn't say it. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean that's exactly the same thing, but it just seems like he's overall a little more trusting in this, like a little more of a good person, like a good person put in a bad situation.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So we get Tess in episode 2 where where after she's been bitten, like she tells us, she's like, we're shitty people, Joel. And it's true, like they are. They're like if you listen to the like what they've talked about, like what they did, you know, they're shitty people. And I just feel like Joel here is being a little more of a hero.
I don't get that.
No?
For me, I think because I'm like, he's on a mission to finding his brother, and he's going to get there no matter what. And he just happens to have something that he can trade off for information. So that's what I got out of it. I think, yes, in that situation, he seems more like the hero because of Kathleen and how, I mean, you're in like the end of the world pretty much. Your mind is going to go dark places.
Yeah.
So it's like, someone ratted out her brother. So she's heartbroken. And
Yeah.
so she's going based off of her emotions to making her not think rationally.
Yeah.
Where she's endangering other people's lives because she just wants to get vengeance for her.
Yeah.
So she's not thinking clearly. She's just focused on getting this one person. Because, I mean, she had all the opportunity to get everyone out of there.
Right.
When she saw all that the ground.
Yeah.
But she was so focused on Henry that it was like,
Yeah.
she's not thinking clearly.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I didn't hate her character.
Yeah.
I just was like, that's unfortunate that she built this resistance based off of just trying to avenge her brother.
Yeah. Well, so I get what you're saying. Because I that's a really good point. You know, she is in a rage. You know, and she is a person at the end of the day. You know, it to me it was just like I didn't like her from the get go, and I didn't really have a reason to like empathize with like her emotions besides the story that they were telling. Right. Like you had that doctor that was locked up, and he's ends up being the one to give to protect Henry, right? Which Henry's a character we'll talk about in a bit too. But I don't know. It just for me, I didn't feel like it went beyond that. But what you're saying is a really good point. She's mad. You know, she's in that moment because of what happened to her brother in that situation. One of the craziest scenes though, that the one that I felt the most was the one when they showed that kid that was attacking Joel, and you know, Ellie ends up, you know, shooting the kid, and he's on the ground, and like that whole scene right there was really emotional too. Like it was such a crazy like moment.
Wait, what scene?
When they first get into
the town, yeah.
Where are they?
They got
Kansas?
ambushed.
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Kansas. Yeah. Yes, it is Kansas. They did say that. So it was such an emotional scene because that kid maybe regrets or doesn't, or is just playing a role in that situation, in the sense of like he's trying to
he's a soldier,
protect himself, right? Like he's trying to keep himself alive. But that scene was crazy. Like I would have been the type of person like, cool, let's work it out. You know, like I know I just shot you, but hey, let's fix things. You know, knowing this is why I wouldn't work in these type of situations. I am too trusting, I guess, of people. No, I'm too trusting of people. And
no, you're a puppy of a man.
Don't you? Anyway, no, but it was like, damn, like Ellie shot him, and that's where she felt, you know, all this baggage on. I like that scene because it was such a like emotional, you know, standpoint from her end too, the way she felt it. And again, I'll go back to what I said about Ellie. I know I find her annoying, but I know that that's what the character's supposed to be. You know, she's a teenage girl, like we talked about it. You know, but you do feel her emotions a lot in that scene as well.
Right. I mean, for 14 years old, nobody should actually feel that
Yeah.
ever. But especially a kid, it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But I'm with Joel. I would have killed him.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
I
let you go, but then you're going to tell people how you got hurt. I'm still going to get hunted anyway.
But we could trade things.
I really doubt it.
No, I know.
I mean,
know.
the way Kathleen was acting, I don't think there was any way they would have survived.
No, of course not. You're absolutely right. But see, that's how like I wouldn't live in this world.
So in the video game part 2, that is one thing that they do with the enemy characters, that they give them names. So for instance, if you kill one of the characters and they find their bodies, like you hear their like the emotion in their voice, like they got you know, Mike or whatever. So it's a way for them to try to get you to empathize a little more with these characters that you're killing. And it's very interesting, but I feel like that's why they did it here. Like when he gives the name, all of a sudden, like you're like
everybody's talking about it too in the show.
Yeah, so they're trying to get you to empathize like with what you're doing. Like you're not killing this faceless person. The person you just killed has a name. They have and he's like, oh, I have a family,
right?
You know, so they're trying to get you to empathize with these characters. Going back to the way it happens in the game. So in the game, some guy is trying to like drown you, right? So they're holding you underwater and you're trying to get to a gun, right? And just when like Joel is about to just die, like Ellie grabs the gun and she shoots the guy right in the head.
Wow.
Right? And her reaction I always found funny when she's just like her face looks rattled, but she just goes, man, I shot the hell out of that guy, didn't I? Which I laughed at.
Yeah.
But Joel is so mad at her for it. Like Joel is a complete dick to her. And
but why is he mad?
Because
in the game.
So she wasn't supposed to be there. This is a part where you get separated from her.
Oh.
And he tells her like, wait there, I'll come get you, right? And then you go through this really creepy underground section with a bloater and more. So there's these infected called stalkers. And they don't just run at you. Like they hide. And you can they're very quiet. So one thing the game has is like a listening mode where you press a button and it kind of like slows down and just listen, so you can kind of hear where noises are coming from.
Crazy.
You can't really see the stalkers unless they're moving, because they're quiet.
Wow.
And it is so creepy because you're just walking around a corner, all of a sudden like you'd see something just kind of like peek out at you and like hide again, or like sometimes you'll see something just run by. You don't know where the hell they're coming from.
No. And you
Terrifying.
want to play this game?
It is a terrifying
It
moment.
sounds terrifying.
But it is so cool.
I want to play it.
But after this, like, you know, you're going to look for Ellie. This whole thing happens. She shows up and he's like, I thought I told you to stay put. And she's like, but you're glad I didn't, huh? And he goes, I'm glad I didn't get my head blown off by a fucking kid.
Oh, shit.
You know, like that's his reaction.
Yeah, like
right?
I could have been the one shot.
Yeah. And so it's cool because even during gameplay, you see the difference in Ellie. Like, she becomes a little more quiet. Like, if you look at her, like, her facial expressions are kind of like a little more down. Like, and she's just, like, you could see that she is upset that... She's more upset that Joel is mad at her for doing it than for doing it. Mm-hmm. So, I do like the fact that, you know... So this is one of the moments where I'm thinking like, oh, they changed this because Joel's was very caring towards her when she did it. When he's like, oh, you shouldn't have had to do that. Mm-hmm. You know, when in the game it does take a little bit for him to get there, and even then, like he's not that nice about it.
Right.
Like the moment is like he just goes, hey, like back there, it was either him or me, and like he walks away, right? And she's just like, you're welcome. You know, so it's still a very cold moment with him, quote unquote, thanking her. Mm-hmm. When here he was a lot warmer. He was a lot more caring. Like, hey, you shouldn't have had to do that. But yeah, it was a cool scene. Although Ellie does reveal that it's not the first time she's done it.
Right.
So we don't know where that's going. In episode 5, we also met Henry and Sam.
Yes. I like this story a lot too. Mm-hmm. Henry and Sam's story, oh god, it was such a depressing episode though. I do have to say, but the story, you know, I didn't know they were brothers at first. It took me a minute to gather that. I think not until like after the credits. But then again, apparently I don't pay attention as much as I should.
Because you're on your phone.
No, but I was trying to pay attention. And I like the story of Henry and Sam. And so we find out that Henry's essentially snitched out like the leader of the resistance, because. So there's a resistance that I guess they're going up against the quarantine, like the people, the Fedra?
Fedra.
Okay. Who's like keeping people locked up, or like they're keeping people from.
So
like,
Fedra, the Fedra is basically FEMA. So they're quote unquote like a FEMA organization. They're a little more militarized.
Okay.
And they hold the quarantine zones.
Oh, okay.
And they also control who they give rations to and medicine and all that stuff too.
Yeah, so this is why that whole resistance existed, because they don't want to be controlled.
They want to be free.
Yeah.
They're basically a government.
Yeah. So Henry gave away the whereabouts of like.
The brother.
Not Tess's, Kathleen's brother, who was a major leader of the resistance. And then they're after him, right? And he's trying to keep his little brother safe. And this is why he did it, because he wanted medicine for his little brother. So that whole little story that they told us about them and how it ended was just like, oh, you know, like it was really depressing to me. I knew it. Thankfully I didn't spoil it out, but I already knew what was going to happen, especially like
because they weren't on the posters.
What?
Because they weren't on the posters?
not big, but the way they set up the story, like I didn't want them to end up dying, but I was like, the way it was going, I was like, all right, yeah, I already know. And then once you know, once we get to the end scene, the major scene, which I'm, you know, jumping really far ahead, but once we get to the end scene where you see that the little kid, what was his name again? Sam. Where he was bit. I was like, yeah, that's it. I already know how this is gonna end. I already even knew that he was gonna end up like, you know, shooting himself. Henry was gonna end up shooting him. Like I knew it. And I was like, oh fuck, you know, like I didn't want that to happen. But it was just like the build up to that moment. It made a lot of sense why I was gonna end that way for sure. Mm-hmm. But it was crazy. It was crazy seeing. I found it really interesting the way she tried to save him. Yeah. And it didn't work out, and it was so sad.
That was so upsetting. Because it was just such a not immature move, but because she's a kid thinking
Yeah.
she's going to save this other kid,
Yeah.
it was so heartbreaking because
Yeah.
she was really trying.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's more to that, sweetie.
Yeah,
Gotta-
yeah.
That's
yeah.
why you're going to doctors.
Yeah. She cuts herself open and she just puts it on the cut, which to me freaked me out in general.
Yeah.
Like, like it freaked me out. But yeah, like, she thought she could do something about it. And no, didn't. She
Yeah.
didn't do it.
I didn't think he was gonna shoot himself.
No.
I thought Joel was gonna
End up shooting him.
shooting both because I was just
Yeah.
like, because it's funny enough when they were under the car, I thought I saw him get bit
Oh, wow.
because you saw him get
Yeah.
pulled. So I was like, oh no, I was like he got bit or he got scratched or something. I don't know how. I know
Yeah.
when they bite them, but I'm like, is it kind of like the T virus on Resident Evil
Oh,
when you
yeah.
get scratched that you could still get it? But I
Yeah.
wasn't sure.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I did see him get injured when they were under the car.
Yeah.
So I was just like, and then that other thing, was that a clicker too?
The
that,
bloater, the big one.
No, not that thing.
Oh, the one that went into the car.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
that was-
It was a kid.
Yeah, and
It was a
she's
kid.
doing her little tumbling. I was like,
Yeah.
oh hell no, they can do that too. I'm like, they're like runners.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, so runners are usually the first stage,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times when you encounter runners, they don't attack you right away. Like they're very quiet, but you hear them kind of like kind of mumbling to themselves.
Oh, creepy.
Because it's a lot of like the person is still in there, so it makes you feel that way.
Yeah.
Because even sometimes when they attack you, like you could hear them kind of like just screaming. And
Fuck no.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Crazy.
I think the order is runners, stalkers, clickers after about a year. Bloaters take about 20 years.
Right.
So bloaters are rarer,
Wow.
more rare to find.
Okay.
But they are also what we saw. Like this, they have these like fungi plates all over their bodies.
Yeah.
that are a lot harder to shoot off.
Yeah.
And
To
they're-
kill. Yeah.
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 So they're also one hit kills. If they get near you and if they grab you, like that's it.
Wow.
Well, we saw it.
We saw it. Yeah.
And
like-
that's exactly how they do it in the game. Like they
Yeah.
just grab one side of like from each end of your mouth and pull it open and break your head off.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Oh, it's a very gruesome game.
Yeah, it is. Jesus.
Like if you have a shotgun and you take it to somebody like in close range, you see them just become
Explode.
just
Oh my
become
God.
blood.
Crazy.
It's so cool though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I recently got the because they re-released it like remastered with the PlayStation 5 graphics. So and they renamed it to The Last of Us Part 1. So it's like those graphics are they're insane.
Sounds awesome.
It really is.
Yeah. It was like the story they told in general, like this whole episode, which is mostly the story of Henry and Sam, right? It just really connected you to them, right? So again, you didn't want anything bad to happen, but it was definitely inevitable, in the show. It felt, you could feel the tension just kind of building up, especially the way, what was her name? The one that was Kathleen was chasing them down. Everywhere, like there was just like no escaping her either at a certain point, and the way they were nice, but then they also, told, hey, like I did it to save my brother. I needed, he needed medicine. What was it? No, leukemia. Yeah. And so it was just like, you do it, the doctor that they showed earlier, in episode 4, and then ended up like showing more of his story too. Like, was just such a good build up with every single moment of it. It was great. It was great. What'd you think?
I liked it. This is where they did have a little bit of a shift that I wasn't a big fan of.
Oh.
So they aged down Sam because Sam is 12 or 13.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Was he deaf in the
No.
game too? No. Okay.
But like him and Ellie do build a little bit of a rapport,
Oh.
and like you could tell that Sam is crushing on Ellie.
Oh,
right.
okay.
Like there's a point when he asks her like, "How old are you?" and she goes, "14." What about you? And he goes, "I'm 14." And Henry's like, "Oh, you're 14 now."
Oh.
But that was also another thing. Like Henry also is he's more protective over him, but he's not warm towards Sam.
Oh.
Like there is a point where Sam find like they're in a toy store, like they're sneaking through a toy store, and Sam picks up like a robot, It actually looks like the. Do you guys watch the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers?
Yeah, I used to.
All right, so it looks like the Megazord.
Oh, cool.
So like he picks it up and like Henry's like, "What are you doing? Like, don't take that." Like, and then he's like, "But my pack's empty." He goes like, "We only take what we need." So he drops it. If you can catch it, but usually the game waits till you're not looking. But Ellie picks it up.
Oh.
Ellie picks up that robot and she gives it to him like after that whole interaction.
Oh, wow.
So him and Ellie have this conversation that's actually very heartfelt because like again you could hear the emotion in the actor's voice where he's just like, what do you think? Like do you think that those people are still in there? And Ellie's just like, no, like they're gone. Like those people are gone. Like that's you're not killing people at that point.
Oh,
They're
okay.
just
Like inside their
monsters.
bodies. Yeah. Okay.
And he's just like, I'm scared to end up like one of those things.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
like Ellie's like, oh, don't worry, like everything's gonna be okay. And like she wishes him a good night. She leaves the room, like, and he drops the toy, and like he picks up like, so he never reveals to anybody that he's been bitten.
Oh.
So the next day, Ellie's like, hey, like they're making food, and Henry's like, oh, I let Sam sleep in. If you want him to join us, go wake him up. And then that's when Ellie goes in and Sam attacks her.
Wow.
So we get that, but it was still very hard. I didn't like that. I was fine with the aging down. At some point, I was like, okay, whatever. He's deaf, and I'm like, I have to read, but okay, I'll read.
Wow. Or you can learn ASL.
That's not gonna happen. But not even because like sometimes he was writing down his responses.
Yeah.
So I have to read regardless.
You're right.
So
Well, because
no, he writes.
Terrible.
So, but I didn't like the fact that he showed his bite. I guess it was to show Ellie's naivete. Is that how you say it? Naivete.
I don't know. The fuck?
Because it's not naiveness. I'm pretty sure it's naivete.
I was gonna say naiveness, but
We see how naive Ellie is.
Great. Yeah.
Restructure a sentence when you
Yeah.
don't know how to say a word.
Well, she seems like more of a kid in this series than she did in the video games.
She's
you know?
19.
And
Bella Ramsey?
holy crap!
Bella
Really?
Ramsey's 19 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Which is Ellie's age in the second game.
Oh. But okay. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, she's playing a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah. But I mean, like, so it sounds like to me in the video game, like she was more mature.
She is a little more mature in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She also sounds like a little bit like more heartless than like obviously the character that they're kind of giving us in the video game too. So I mean, in the show, like there is still a lot of like her kidness, like her being a kid, still is like an undertone of a lot of it, like her emotion when she's shot somebody, like the way she's trying to be like a older sister almost to Sam at a certain point too. So it was a lot of emotion for sure. Yeah.
I think that a big reason they did remove that might have been because they didn't want to have that little romantic interest with her and Sam.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Yeah, because Ellie is a lesbian.
In real life.
Yeah. Oh, in the
comic, in the video game. Yeah. Comic book.
Yeah. So I think they might have not wanted to give her that. That's just what I think.
Okay.
But I mean, overall, I liked the episode. I liked Henry and Sam. There was something that I wish they had done that they didn't do. They kind of like just had a little Easter egg. But when they're in the tunnels, they find that playroom, and they find this picture, like a drawn picture, and it says "Our protectors, Ish," and
right.
I don't remember the other name. That is a story that you kind of get through finding notes in the game, right? And you're going through sewers actually.
Right.
So when you first land, like you start off on like a beach, and you find like a wrecked boat, right? And you find a note in it that is just like a journal entry, and it's from a guy named Ish, and he talks about how he avoided the apocalypse by being out at sea, but now his ship is too damaged and he has to come back for food and stuff, right? So the ship crashes. While you're going through this tunnel system, through the sewers, you find more notes here and there. Like there's some notes where he's just like, "Hey, I met some survivors today. I thought about asking them to join, but I didn't know how they would take it." And then later, how like you see that little play school, like build in some of the areas, and but then like you find this room, and you see one body and like and what looks like three other bodies that are covered,
Yeah.
small bodies.
Oh no.
And you find a note that says, we're trapped in here. They're outside. If it comes to it, I'll make it quick."
Wow.
Right. So it's like one guy and three kids.
Yeah.
In there. So as again, like as you escape that whole section because you're completely swarmed at some point, then you see more of on the outside you find journal entries of other people like,
Yeah.
oh, it's like some guy came to trade with us. We're wondering if we should join him. And like you just hear Joe going like, well, that wasn't a good idea.
Whoa.
Because everybody just went and basically died there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was hoping that because you know how they've been starting with flashbacks.
Yeah.
So I was hoping that would be how that episode started, like with that flashback of Ish and like kind of telling his story. Because I would
Yeah.
have liked to have seen that.
Yeah. Crazy.
Are you talking about like that flashback before Bill and Frank?
Yeah. So
the-
episode 1 started with the flashback of the scientist talking about the fungus. Episode 2 started with the doctor talking about the bombing,
the world.
Bombing.
Yeah.
bombing
yeah.
Jakarta. Episode 3 started with the flashback of Bill and Frank. Episode 4 did not start with a flashback. And I thought like, oh, if you're doing
Episode
this,
5 kind of did a flashback, but only to write with Henry and the doctor.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, just overall, I mean, I've been really into it. You know, I've been surprised at how into it I get into it. Excuse me. What I'm trying to say is how great it's been, you know, in general.
If you can't
right?
say a word, restructure the sentence.
just go somewhere else, right? It is very Walking Dead reminiscent, I would say,
Yeah.
and the good parts of the Walking Dead, which is good. I don't want them to push it to the point where it's like, okay, and this fucking show, I don't want it to be like 13 seasons of it because it's like at a certain point you gotta let go, you know?
Well, season 2 has already been ordered.
Yeah.
And they're thinking because part 2 is a very long game.
Oh, okay.
It is such a long game.
Yeah.
And it is a depressing game.
Oh god.
Great game. I love the game.
Yeah.
I know I'm probably in the minority. People hate this game
Wow.
because of what happens in
Okay.
it.
Well,
But,
no spoilers, thanks.
yeah, no spoilers. But like, it is a depressing game, but it is like a 35-hour game.
Wow.
So they're thinking that part 2 might be split into 2 seasons.
That's cool.
But I mean, Neil Druckmann has said, if I don't have a story, I don't want to.
Yeah, like to milk it too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a great story. It's been a great story. I'm happy. Like I've actually been able to watch it and learn a little bit more about The Last of Us because I know like you're so fascinated by it. So
I love it. I actually since I've purchased The Last of Us Part 1, I think I've beaten it 4 times already.
nice.
It is just such
Yeah.
like I like the gameplay. I like the story. I like it's just
Everything. Yeah. That's awesome.
And it has the new game plus mode, so you can go back and play it with everything you've already unlocked.
Yeah. What do you think so far?
No, I really enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. I like the storyline, and then it makes me think back to like I related to other things. Like, okay, if I was in this situation, what would I do?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like you can't outbeat the fungus because I'm like, isn't it airborne? But then that was another thing where I was like, can they go out on water? So if I like with you bringing that point of view with Ish, I'm like, okay, that answered my question. Like apparently they didn't, but then I'm like, how did it get across the world though?
Yeah. Well, people fly.
Yeah, the same way the COVID. Got
Right.
And that's kind of like the real life, like if you, like the references that you get to, you're like, damn, like people, you know, people are careless, right? Like they go everywhere, they do everything, you know, and like this is how stuff happens a lot of the times. Did you mention the Ish thing because there was an Easter egg about it?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't. You did say that, but I didn't process
those
all the
words
way.
exactly too.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I thought you meant in the video game there's an Easter egg about it, but you're right. You did say it that way. But yeah, it's interesting.
Because I was thinking like, what is that? Wasn't it Dawn of the Dead?
Yes.
Where they were trying to go to another
Like a little island or something.
island,
right?
but
yeah.
then they found people there too, and
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
zombies there too. So I was just like, well, is that the same thing here? And then I thought of the Quiet Place where those things couldn't swim. So I was
Yeah.
just like, what if I just took a boat? But then I was like, weather
Yeah.
it can ruin the boat and it can corrode, all of that stuff. So I was just like, then that fungus can grow on that too. Like, oh my God. So many things were going in my mind with this show, even though it's only been 5 episodes. But I'm just like, how would I survive if this actually happened?
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I give up.
You kind of
Like, hold on, those things run? Nah.
That's it right there.
That's why I was like, oh gosh, runners. They're runners.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm out of shape. Like, I can't do it.
There's 28 days later where the zombies are freshly infected as well, and they chase you down. It is like that. Those scenes are like
I think
exactly
that was the first time
too.
you see running zombies.
Yeah. And it was so haunting. I love that movie. That's like one of my favorite movies of all time for sure. So
Scared the crap out of me.
yeah, horrifying.
'Cause it reminded me of this time when it was like 5:30 in the morning and I was getting ready to go on the bus, but my bus was late. And around the time when, did you hear about people becoming zombies with bath salts or whatever?
Yeah.
So it was around that time, and all of a sudden, I just see someone running.
Oh no! Fuck no!
I just see shadows running, and I'm just like, I'm by myself.
Yeah.
And this thing is running really fast and not human-like.
Yeah.
So I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna die today.
Oh no!
Because I can't outrun a zombie. So I'm just like, okay.
I can't outrun a guy in a wheelchair.
He's probably faster.
Well, he's got wheels.
Oh my God.
So luckily there was this huge tree. So I kind of went behind the tree because you see this thing getting closer to me.
Okay.
And so sure enough, it was just something in black.
Oh my
All
God.
I see is eyes.
Oh my God.
And I just hear,
Oh my God. What
and
the
they're
heck?
just panting like this. And
Yeah.
you just see them like walking like very slowly because they just abruptly stopped running
Yeah.
in the middle of the road.
They got tired.
And I was just like, what the fuck is this thing? So then you see it getting closer to me. And I guess the bus driver didn't have his headlights on at the time.
Okay.
So I didn't even see the bus coming.
Yeah.
And then you just hear it honk
Oh my gosh.
and turn the lights on brighter.
Yeah.
And then you see that thing dart off again.
What the heck?
And I was just like, what was that?
Oh my
'Cause,
goodness.
again, I couldn't make out if it was a person or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
And so I get on the bus. The bus driver's like, was that human? I was like, I don't know.
What the heck?
I'm like, I don't know. I was
Have you
like,
ever seen Constantine?
yes.
Constantine, but whatever. Anyway, that reminded me of like a scene that happens in that movie. I think it's like the demons disappear in the light as well. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, it was bizarre because I was like, am I the only? Because I was by myself.
Yeah.
But to have the bus driver tell me he
Yeah.
saw the same thing.
Yeah.
He was like, I saw that thing running and then it stops. He's like, so I turn on my fog lights for you.
Yeah,
It's like, well, thank you,
wow.
because he honked. And mind you, it's 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
and
it's
and,
dark.
And
Yeah.
we're the only people, and then it's the only vehicle, so you get this
Yeah.
honking noise.
Right. Wow.
It was the
Crazy.
creepiest thing. So I was just thinking, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like in 28 days, Resident Evil,
Cardio.
like, all this thing. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I'm going to die from a zombie.
In what is it? Zombieland. Like one of the rules is cardio. Like always be ready. Yeah, just be ready for it. That's crazy. I don't know. A huge fan of the show, like I said.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see the next episode.
Yeah, likewise. How did this episode end? Because it didn't end with Henry killing himself. Like, we got a scene after that.
Well, yeah. So
They got buried.
yeah, they got
Oh,
buried,
that was
and then she wrote "I'm sorry" on the little
Yeah.
tablet thing, and then
And it was like, come on, Joel.
yeah, she's already like sad,
Mhm.
hard, like hardening as a person.
Well, not just that, because she's devastated. Her blood didn't work like she
Yeah.
thought it would.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, like I mean, I don't in the game there's like after it happens, like she kind of mentions like, oh, I forgot to leave that robot on the grave, and Joel's like, Ellie, and she's like, I want to talk about it, and he's like, nope, like he will not talk to her about it. Like he's just like, no, like they're gone, that's it, leave it alone.
I think that it would be hard to do that with this because they're trying to build a connection really fast. I feel like in the show, because it's only like 9 episodes
9
we said.
episodes.
So I think they're trying to have that connection in a lot of senses a lot faster, so that just to have the emotion behind it for sure. So that's why it seems like it's moving along really fast. Sounds like it's fast forwarding through the game on many different
Yeah.
levels. So
Yeah, because there was like 2 episodes where you didn't really see any infected.
yeah, that's true. But it was still a really good show, though.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, it is not a show about infected.
Yeah.
It is a show about the people.
Right.
This is a show about the last of them.
Right. Yeah. Crazy.
What I think they're trying to build more on the emotional connection to people, especially if they know people haven't played the game. So they need to capture the audience somehow.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just keep this guy cold to a child, they're going to be like, how can you make a character like this?
Right.
Because, I mean, even like Resident Evil and like Silent Hill, they don't really go based too much on the
They don't go
storylines
based anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like they have to capture people's
Yeah.
attention
I mean, don't
somehow.
get me wrong. At some point, you do see that switch, and I feel like
Yeah.
when you see it, it's like, oh, that's what you've been waiting for the entire game. Like
Yeah.
the moment.
Yeah.
We'll get there later.
Spoilers. Pedro Pascal is amazing. I just want to say that too. Like, absolutely amazing. He's been super intriguing in this show, and yeah, daddy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's our review on the first 5
Yeah,
episodes.
it's been great, right?
Do you guys have anything else to add?
No, I'm good.
So I guess we'll talk about more episodes next time.
Next time.
All right. Have a week.
Bye.
Bye.